So I was going to do just a review of this new song, Document 79, by YouTuber and artist Scru. But then, I don't know, I just started getting goofy. I mean, I was thinking about the song, I was thinking about how unbelievably important it is, and I was thinking about how it's going to exist as this kind of historical document of this time that we're living through, sort of, in hip-hop culture and in American culture and in world culture. And then I just started getting more and more goofy in my thinking, just trying to think like, all right, so how could I actually phrase this for people in the future? Because the thing is, and you might not know this, but in 10 years or 20 years, there's going to be an entire cottage industry of academics who are going to be studying YouTube, who are going to be studying this moment in hip-hop, who are going to be using all these videos and all this stuff that we now call content, but is often art, as something to be studied and analyzed and contextualized. So I'm thinking about those people. I'm thinking about Professor Sky in 20 years, little Professor Skies who are out there. And what are they going to have? So I'm trying to provide some kind of larger overhead view. Like, I don't just study hip-hop and 17th century French literature and how to teach French. I also study YouTube itself. And so I was thinking, where is Screwface Jean? And I'm sorry, I am a French professor. He calls himself John. I'm going to try and call himself Screwface John, but it's really hard not to pronounce it when he spells it that way. Where is Screwface John in the sort of world of hip-hop YouTubers? And I realized he's probably on the Mount Rushmore. And that's where I started thinking, oh, this could be fun. This could be fun. What if we had a discussion about hip-hop YouTubers, Like, how could we quantify, how could we try to identify, like, who are the four biggest and best names whose heads could go up on the mountain? By the way, I haven't made the thumbnail yet, but I'm not going to use AI to do it. So it might just be a cutout face on top of Mount Rushmore, because I'm not using AI. So once I had that idea, I'm so far away from reviewing Document 79, although I am going to do that. I'm like, all right, so like if there were like a hip-hop YouTuber Mount Rushmore, I think you'd have to base it on the four criteria I'm going to put forth: insight, intellect, individuality, and influence. Okay, I think in order to really take place on, what is essentially a colonialist monument, the problems with Mount Rushmore itself aside, long live the Crazy Horse Monument, that's going to be awesome when it's made. The basic idea of who are the four best in any category, I think that's the categories. And that's the way we'll determine insight, intellect, individuality, and influence. And I was thinking and thinking, I'm like, I know that there are two members up there, okay? And the other two, I'm not sure. And to be clear, oh my God, is this just opinion? All right? You might have a completely different one than I do. This is just a fun discussion. But as far as I'm concerned, there's like two faces up there that I know are there. Justin Hunt, fairly obviously, and I think Screwface John, excuse me. I'm thinking, so you tell me in the comments, this will be a fun discussion maybe. Maybe you think, Joe Budden, but I don't know, man. Like, I'm trying to think, like, what's the first word in their bio? Is it podcaster and YouTuber, or is it YouTuber and podcaster? To me, to be up there on that Mount Rushmore, you have to be a hip-hop YouTuber. So, I think basically anyone else I've ever been in a Culture United episode with could be up there. The members of the collective, I think they could be up there. I mean, there's a lot of other people who, I might not mention, but could definitely be up there. What's tricky is, the way I'm interested is not like who are the four best people who talk about hip hop on YouTube, but who are the four people who are YouTubers who talk about hip hop. So for instance, I don't think Touré would be up there, even though if we had like a general hip hop media Mount Rushmore, he probably would. Because like he's a good YouTuber, but that's not his main thing. That's not the first line in his bio. It's not YouTuber, it's author, teacher, the expert, all that, right? And I think also, we'd have to be careful. We don't want to have just sort of general music YouTubers, like Anthony Fantano, even though he's got a lot of influence and a lot of insight and all that other stuff. Nor do I even think that, FD Signifier would be up there, because I personally see him not as a hip-hop YouTuber, but a larger cultural commentator, right? But these are all just my goofy little fun meditations on what this could possibly be. Sure as hell, no disrespect to anybody I just mentioned here. So you can tell me in the comments, who would you put up there as like hip-hop, YouTube, Mount Rushmore? And please remember the four quadrants. you know? And when I think about the idea of why do I put Screwface John there, I have to tell you, I didn't ever watch Screwface John. I didn't. I stayed away because of the thumbnail. I am often told by people that they did not click on my videos, that I appeared in their feed, and they did not click on their feed because they saw me with my stupid suit, or maybe my glasses, and just my general, who wants to hear a French professor talk about hip-hop? And do you know what I tell them? Fair. I wouldn't click on me either. But like Screwface John, the way he presents himself, you know, he does the face, you know, the thumbnail face. He has all the flames everywhere. He pretends to be, he for, I assume, commercial need, presents himself as, through his thumbnails, as just another reactor. I get prickly sometimes when people ask me to react to things because I am an arrogant prick and I think, I don't react, I analyze. Can I get a tomato in the chat? Can you give me a tomato just for that? That's what I think. I'm stupid, right? And part of the reason I learned that I was arrogant and wrong was through Screwface John's reactions. Because the more I watched, the more I realized he was able to do during a reaction what most critics can only do after great deliberation. He managed to successfully work as a shallow reaction channel that gets all the clicks. So he's able to be the sugar. And then he's also capable of being the medicine. When you actually sit down and watch his analysis, I say, God damn, that's a good point. How did he come up with that on the fly? How did he do it? You know? And that's the real brilliance of Screwface John, even more than this song, which I promise I'm going to talk about. That's why you clicked on this video, but give me a second here. So insight, you know? I think he is able to provide a great amount of insight. Especially with his experience as a rapper and a consumer, and just how deep he's able to go when he's discussing things from both of those perspectives. As far as intellect, it's the speed that blows me away. You can watch his mind. You can watch the gears turn. I mean, not really, okay, because we'll get to this. He's a very good performer. But if you're familiar with largely improvised public speaking, I can see the moment when I'm watching where he like gets this idea, where he gets the thing, and then he gets it, and I can see it. I can see it in him, and that's nothing that he's showing. But I know what it's like when you're giving a speech, when you're talking essentially in real time, and you see someone landing on a point. That's the best moment. That's like the flow state. I don't mean to be listen, Michael Jordan's a great basketball player, okay? And great basketball players experience some kind of flow. When you're public speaking and you're in the pocket and you come up with new ideas, or when you're teaching and you come up with something and you say it just right, I swear to God it's a flow state. And he's able to do that with these really deep ideas while making all these deep connections, while also being a YouTuber who's running around going, ah, that makes people click. Individuality. He's entirely himself. You know, he presents himself, not on super specific details, but his markers of identity, his Nigerian roots, growing up in the Midwest. He's able to talk about that, to bring that in, how he's a former rapper, how he's sort of adjacent and familiar with the streets. He's able to state his bias. He's able to be open with his bias. He's able mostly to share his passion. You know, I am a professor. Seriously, I have my class on Haiti. Check out my second channel, by the way. I've started uploading my lectures. Haiti, the most important country in the world. That's the name of the class. Go check it out on my second channel. But if you don't have enthusiasm, no one cares. You cannot be a good teacher without having enthusiasm. And his enthusiasm is so contagious that you don't even note that you are also contracting a love of hip-hop in its sort of deepest and truest sense. It's great competitive brilliance. He's able to infect you with it because he's so good at performing and showing his enthusiasm. He has this thesis about what hip-hop is, and every single one of his videos, he illustrates that thesis to the point where when you watch his stuff, you have gotten a lesson on a deeper spiritual meaning of this words and music that's going through your ears. At the basis of it, though, we're talking about a performer. That's the thing. I'm going to tell you the truth. I almost recorded this video last week where I was going to set the camera to the side and do some funny lighting and just walk around the side of my room just going, oh, doing a Screwface John impersonation, but I didn't. I'm smarter than that sometimes, not always. Sometimes really, really not smart. Yeah, but it's his ability as a performer. It is just, it's miraculous. It really, and that's the thing. Like, there are going to be articles written about Screwface John. I'm telling you. They might even quote me saying this right now in those articles. Okay? There's going to be articles and colloquium on Fantano and FD Signifier. There's going to be all of that. This is where thought is happening in its largest and most important way. It's right here on this stupid YouTube channel owned by goddamn Google. This is where it's happening. Influence. That's the other thing. You know, it's one thing to be great. And there's a lot of people who I'd want to put up there on that Mount Rushmore who just sadly don't have the influence. You know, like who just don't have that reach. And that's the thing. When something is popular and good at the same time, we need to celebrate it. We need to stop pulling our hair out saying, Mr. Beast is number one, Mr. Beast is number one, and start saying, but Scru has a million, okay? Screwface John is sitting here delivering hip-hop analysis at its highest level with the most cultural sincerity he possibly can and has over 1 million viewers, okay? So listen, clicks are not flowers, all right? So I'm trying to make sure, and I do this. On my second channel, I have videos where I sort of have similar praise for future academics about other YouTubers. I even some here. But let's just take one example. One video that he did where it really drove home. His review of JID, his reaction to JID, God Does Like Ugly, which is currently sitting as of Wednesday, August 27th at 176,000 views. The thing about and this might not be clear to you if you are in the future and you are looking back on this moment, when a good rap album comes out, there's an entire ecosystem that goes around it of passionate people talking about it on YouTube. And each person delivers something different and brings something else to it. Okay? So like, I don't know, you'll watch Curtis King and you'll just be amazed at the way he's able to break down the production and how he's able to tie in his experience as a producer while at the same time giving these really funny and insightful reactions himself. And then maybe, you know, you'll get kind of like a shorter thing from like Rob Markman where I'll just like make like less, like only a couple of points, but every single point is like a dart in the neck, and you're like, God damn, that's a good point, you know? And then you sort of wait for like, you know, the Fantano, sort of the most kind of authoritative and wide-reaching. You have all these things, but the thing that Screwface John is able to do is he fits right in between your first listen and then your determination as to what you think the album is. Like, he makes the albums better. It's like part of the enjoyment, and it's because he listens to the whole album, he goes along with it, you listen with him, and while he's reacting, he happens to react on most of the things I react to. He happens to find the things amazing that I find amazing. He's able to drop enough pearls of wisdom that you're never just watching him go, oh, damn, oh, bars, oh, good. But sometimes it is necessary to just say, oh, damn, oh, bars, oh, good. And he says that better than anybody. As an example from the JID video, he talks about how he could never be in the studio with JID because he would be stretching out the collar, that the collar of JID would be 4 feet off of his neck because John would be like a hype man pulling his shirt. Like, that's how I was feeling listening to the album. Like, that's how I was feeling. 47-year-old white guy from suburban Massachusetts who is in no part a part of hip-hop culture, but who enjoys hip-hop culture a lot. I'm sitting there listening to this album, and that's how I feel. I want to be, say it again, say it again. That's what I want. He's able to bring that in while at the same time commenting on the nature, like of the first track, how it goes from this kind of like sacred and profane to sacred. And he asks these questions. Let me know, JID, are you going to rap like this the whole album? That's my enthusiasm. That's how I felt listening. And then you get to something like Glory, the second song on the JID album. He talks about the beat switch, and this is what I'm talking about. This is where you see the moment. This is where you see the goddamn brilliance happening, and you just have to recognize it. He starts saying how he doesn't usually like beat switches because it's too unsettling and it just became a fad, which is fine. And then you can watch him as he's formulating this idea. Why are the beat switches in this album so far better than other beat switches? And he says this one is evolving. This is like the beat listening to itself and then standing up and doing something more. Listen, my doctorate's up there. University of California, Santa Barbara, okay? I have a PhD. I teach for a living. My job is to think of cool stuff, okay? It's a life of the mind. Can't do better. Cannot do better than describing the beat switch on Glory, than the beat listening to itself and reacting. It is poetic. It is deep. It is true. And it you just can't do better than that. And he's doing it on the fly, God damn it. Even talking about Jid's style as being aggressive and assertive without being loud. See, I couldn't be in the room with Scru while he was doing his reactions because I'd be wearing out his collar, because that's how I feel when I see analysis at this level. It's just awesome. It's just awesome. And that's just the first 2 songs off one album, and that's what he's able to bring. So I said I would talk about Document 79, and I will, because I think, hey, future historians, Document 79 is an essential part of the Kendrick-Drake beef canon. When we study the Kendrick-Drake beef, of course you're going to have Not Like Us and Like That and all that. But you better include this primary document, document number 79, okay? This primary source has to be in your studies. You cannot leave this out. Screwface John has been pulled into this beef by being pulled into the lawsuit. He is one of the most visible and most interesting commentators on the beef. He is one of the most vocal and clear supporters of the Kendrick side of the beef, and now he has made art to it. Okay? Thank you. Please send me an email when you publish your paper about the beef that is focused on document number 79, because that's what needs to happen. I think it's fairly fair to say that what he's trying to do in this song is do what FD called Kendrick. You know, Kendrick's line that FD used to define the beef, I am what the culture is feeling. It feels to me like what Screwface John is trying to do, and I'm saying this as a visitor to hip-hop culture, not as a member, so I don't know, okay? But it feels to me like what he's trying to do is say what the culture is feeling. This is not going to be pure praise. There's one line I don't like. I think it's a bad line and should have been taken out. And sometimes, you know, sometimes there's some goofy lines, you know, like rhyming plot and that's a crock, you know, but that's fine. I do want to say thank you, Drake. Thank you, Drake. There's so many reasons I want to thank Drake, not just for my plaque, because he gave me my plaque, but like he picks fights with journalists and commentators in a way that helps us to better appreciate what makes them so special. When he attacks somebody, he gives them a platform to be their truest, authentic self with the most possible visibility. So when he attacked Anthony Fantano a couple years ago, Fantano was able to bring out his edgy wit, his humor with the vegan cookie recipe, his remove, his like wisdom and wit. That was all able to come out with Drake attacking him. Just last week, Rob Markman, like truly one of the best human beings, like who talks about hip hop, right? He attacked him. And how does Rob Markman come back? He makes a video. Listen, there's a word. It's a fancy word, but it's a good word. It's called magnanimity, okay? Magnanimity is when you have been wronged, but you show like mercy, understanding, and restraint. Rob Markman should change his name to Rob Mr. Magnanimity Markman, because the way he responded was so gracious, was so clearly just genuine and sincere that he easily could have made, and I'm not like joking, Rob Mr. Magnanimity Markman left at least $10,000 on the table in terms of like ad revenue and stuff like that. He could have made at least $10,000 had he played this differently. And he left all that money on the table because he's a sincere guy who does what he says and says what he does. Thank you, Drake, for allowing everyone else to see that. And now we got Scru, who has been talking as though he is like Superman, like he's Batman, like he's hip-hop's defender, that he's like doing what Kendrick is doing, except at a level with less visibility in a different venue. And now you're giving him a chance to put on the cape and actually attack him frontally with this lawsuit. Now he gets to actually be the person that we've always known he is. Thank you, Drake. Part 1 starts off, I break the song into two parts, tragedy and comedy. Part one is tragedy, talks about if a child is rejected from a village, he might come back and burn the village to feel its warmth, an old African proverb. I think he's being too nice to Drake. Drake's not a child, everybody. He's not a child who was kicked out of the village. He was in the village, and then he was like, this is my village, F this village. I actually like other villages too. I'm going to include this village in my village. We're going to call this Drakistan. And then he got kicked out, all right? That's what happened. He tried to turn Hip Hop Village into Drakistan, and everyone kicked him out, and then he came back and tried to burn down Hip Hop Village. Anyways, nice, strong, and mournful beat. I love how he just goes through. He does what is necessary. He provides for you, the future academics who's trying to look back at this moment, the post-beef moment, the lawsuit moment. Okay, there was the whole beef and all this stuff and the PDF files and all that stuff. All that's fine. But this is the post-beef moment. No one has been more insistent, more clear with his attacks on Drake based on the lawsuit than Screwface John. He actually liked the Hard Part 6. Drake is trying to sue somebody who liked that piece of garbage? Jesus Christ. He defended the Hard Part 6 and you're trying to sue him? Man, talk about a lack of gratitude. You know, he's a fair guy. I think he's a fair guy. Okay, he's not as fair as Rob Markman. Rob Markman, best umpire in the game. But, you know, he's pretty fair. But here he is. He talks about all of the outrageousness of the lawsuit. I know you didn't, dog. You ain't hoe enough to get kids involved. That's what bothers me the most, getting the kids involved and lawsuits, all this drama toward you. Breaks down the whole, he has an entire verse, and I'm not going to go line by line, but he breaks down in an entire part of the verse where there's supposedly a smoking gun on Kendrick that he did not sign his record deal until, like, he released the songs for the beef after he signed his record deal, so that, like, he was waiting to get distribution to really start dissing Drake. And, like, Drake didn't do that. Drake was holding out. Drake was like, you know, I'm not going to sign the contract. I'm going to go out. I'm going to see if I can hit 60 home runs this year, and then I'm going to sign a big contract. He was trying to Juan Soto it, okay? That's what, if you follow baseball, Juan Soto was like, I'm not going to sign the extension. I'm just going to try to have a good year of baseball and then get a big extension, and that's what he did, and now he's on the Mets until the year 2375, okay? And you're just mad you gambled and lost, which ties into the other bits of anger that people have towards Drake, which is, of course, that he just supports gambling. That he's just a gambling shill, or as I call him, a gambling groomer, who's trying to bring people into gambling, especially young people into gambling. He is a part of the gambling groomer industry, along with XQC and Aiden Ross and the rest of the Happy Dad ghouls. Part 2. The song beat changes, nice, beautiful change. This is comedy, satire. He's doing satire of Drake's dancing. He's doing his perfect impersonation. He's at the Grammys while you're handing out subpoenas. Very funny. You lost your drive, you need a CDL tying into so CDL is a commercial driver's license, tying into the online commentary of Drake driving the trucks in his Iceman rollout. You know, it's all very much of the moment, right? You want to be like, I want to be like Tupac and Biggie. You want to be Adele. This whole consistent thing. Again, Drake is a man who tried to turn Hip Hop Village into Drakistan, right? That's what he tried to do. And for like 10 years, he was doing a pretty good job of it. To the point where people would come to the village and say, I can't wait to meet the leader, Drake. Drake, right? That's what they wanted. Drake, that's what they wanted. And now they don't want him anymore. Now there's a new mayor. It's Kendrick. And the mayor of Hip Hop Village, he's not going to change the name to Kendrickia. See right there? See? I was telling you? When someone comes up with a good idea, the whole thing Drakistan, that's not in my notes. I came up with that on the fly. Kendrickia, same thing. And then he brings it personal. Once he said my name, I knew that boy's a liar. Right? What a fascinating idea. Because it's true. It's like, you don't know someone's lying. Like, you don't know someone's lying. You can think someone's lying. But if they actually start lying about you, then you know for sure that they're lying. Once he said my name, I know that boy's a liar. This is not payola. It's effing murder for hire. And I'm talking lyrically because you're probably wearing a wire. Constantly making fun of him for siding with the law and trying to use the criminal justice system to his benefit, to attack free speech, to attack having lost in a rap battle. And then he's even able to access his own power. It's crazy because you claim to be the biggest right now. Little old me from the village can take a price down. So he is from a village, right? He talks about being from the village in Nigeria. I don't know the name of it, right? He might be speaking metaphorically, right? Just sort of, but that's how he refers to himself in the song. And so it's great because it ties into the beginning with the village that he's talking about. Because let's be honest, it doesn't matter what the name of the village was, okay, in West Africa. What matters is the hip-hop village, right? The one that Drake is trying to burn down. He calls him Snitch God. You've got to be good. That's the thing. You got to have the integrity and the intelligence and all the other stuff I said, but you also got to be funny. You got to be able to drag people in. Calling him the Snitch God, that's hilarious. Mad because the culture root for K-Dot, maybe because he rap and you make pop. And that's it, right? You can't be the mayor of hip-hop village when you make pop. Then the one bad lyric, lost need to compete, you female to me. Hey, man, why put down women? The whole part of the problem with Drake is that, like, he's a misogynist. So, like, if we're going to be on this side and we're going to be, like, making the good fight, man, we can't insult people by calling them female, by calling them women. Even calling them pussy is misogynist, but it's a little bit more removed, you know? That could maybe be excused by some kind of, like, colloquialism. Not really, but, you know, it's a lesser infraction, but, you know. What do women do? You know, what do women do to get insulted and compared to Drake? You know what I'm saying? Anyways, back on track. MAGA Drizzy looking like Trump whenever he beef. I ain't Stephen Colbert. You can't take me off TV. Beautiful. He's able to tie in. There's a whole thing happening here where everyone is starting to wake up to this correlation between MAGA and Drizzy, to the OVO side and Drizzy. Okay, like and MAGA. It's becoming clear. I've made videos on it. Read My Soul's made videos on it. Oh, what's the name of that? I'm sorry, I got to find the name of this person. 1 second. Look at the Material with BK has released an amazing video all about how hip-hop is turning conservative and red-pilled. Read My Soul's obviously been on it. A lot of us are seeing this and commenting on it, and here it is in a song, in a little chunk, in a preserved moment in Amber, okay? This is what we need. We need this coalescing moment of the post-Drake, pro-hip-hop village sign, anti-Drakistan, okay? So there you go. There's my commentary. I'm going to go off to go teach my class now. What do you think? Can you tell me who would you put up there on the YouTube hip-hop Mount Rushmore? You know, based on those criteria of insight, intellect, individuality, and influence. You know, that's fun, right? Why not? Okay. Well then, until next time. I was going to try and do something super. There's the camera.